Hi, I'm Gayel Childress. Welcome to my studio. I'm sitting here with some work that I'm working on in a series. I'm interested in calling attention to the disappearance of our butterflies. If we're not careful, they're going to be listed on the endangered list. So I kind of thought to myself, how can I help the butterflies? I love butterflies. And so I thought, well, I'll do what Picasso did when he saw the planes come over Guernica, and he painted the famous painting Guernica of showing the evils of war. So I'm going to show what would happen if our butterflies disappeared. And for instance, these are unfinished. I have a small piece, 8 by 10. This is another unfinished piece. This piece is finished. This is, I have them all labeled. This one is called Why. This piece is going to be called Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. This piece is going to be called What? No More? So I have 12 in the series, and each one have titles pertaining to our consciousness about maybe losing the butterflies. I have one here on the easel that's I'm just now designing, and you can see it's quite a bit larger. I believe it's like 30 by 16, 18 by 30 maybe. I'm using collaged pieces of paper towels that I made shibori designs on and then inked in and cut out butterfly forms. So I have them just pasted up right now with tape just to find my design. So I'm sort of in my head going to recreate the underpainting, darker blue. And over here in this area are going to be just inking little pieces of what might be butterfly wings, and to kind of show that they're not, you're not sure what they are or where they're going. They're like disappearing.
Tell me about the mediums you work with and if you have a favorite.
Thank you. Well, starting with this series, it's going to be acrylic, collage, and it would be probably mixed media with collage. I love painting with acrylic. It's fast. I don't have to wait until things dry like in oil. The second fun thing for me to do is to work in encaustic. Then I have an encaustic area. These are 2 hot boxes that heat up with, I don't know if you can see inside, they're heated by light bulbs. Not the incandescents, the old-fashioned ones. And this is a zinc plate, metal plate. This plate gets hot. Then I have encaustic paints. I have them all listed here in buckets with their different colors. I can either paint one large painting here, lay down my paper, and then pull it off. Or I can lay my paper down here and then use the colors on top. So this is my encaustic station. I also make my own encaustic, which is fun. I always like to be curious on how I can make my own materials. Like, for instance, I've learned how to make my own fine charcoal and how to make gesso. This station is my printmaking station. This is a small press. I can make small things that I would put into the rollers. after on a plate, a metal plate, and then roll through the roller and then take it out from the other side and pull off my print. I like making monoprints. This is my watercolor station. I first started in my art career, which I didn't know it was going to be a career, but in my enjoyment of making art, I loved watercolor. And so watercolor is a special place in my heart. But then I found out later that the art world didn't take watercolors as seriously as they did oils and painted mediums like acrylics on canvas. So then I switched over to acrylics because oils were too long drying in between, and I'm a more spontaneous person. One of my favorite mentors in watercolor, and I still use in my acrylic painting, is Raoul Dufy. I just love his freedom and his spontaneity and the use of lines. When I first started doing watercolors and taking classes in various adult education places while raising my family, if you used a line work or put pencil work in your watercolors, that was considered a no-no. You couldn't do that. It was an inexperienced person. Now the line work is accepted, and that I love line work. So I've continued to use line work in my works on canvas, in acrylic as well in watercolors. Another mentor for me is in the images of being free is that of Marc Chagall. He painted his dreams and wasn't interested in photorealism. And to me, that's more emotional, and I want to use my emotional feelings, I guess, to paint. And I think that's the hardest thing to learn, is to how to paint from your soul. You can learn how to paint photographically. I mean, for instance, you could have a photo of a family member, and it's of your family member taken by the camera. And just some way that does not look like your family member. You can take a bad photo. But you can also paint your family member, and you can feel that how that family member personality is, or you can see more than what the camera gave you. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to paint something more than what the camera can give you. And when I paint, I love the feeling of euphoric, being euphoric. It takes you into a different realm. Right? It's painting on the right side of your brain, and time. There's no time, and you're one with the canvas. And one thing I learned: the canvas is smarter than I am. If I want to put a certain color down, and the canvas says, "Oh, that isn't going to work," and I insist on using that color, and sure enough, it didn't work. So I've got to listen to the canvas. So that's an important part that I've learned, is listening to the canvas, because it's smarter than I am, and I turn out nicer, better paintings if I do. I have always been intrigued with reproducing an image. As a little kid, I would take cartoons and I would draw them myself. Art has given me a beautiful life. It has taken me to faraway countries and faraway places and meeting wonderful, wonderful people. And I'm blessed to have whatever the universe gave me that I could do. And that was art. I've been into the world of art since I was a little kid. So I'm 80 now. So it would have to be at least 75 years I've been doing this. And I'm still learning. I think there's always something new, which is so exciting. And I can't imagine being bored, because look at all the stuff in the studio. I could be going from one station to the other creating. It's endless.
Describe your art to me and tell me if your personality is reflected in your art.
Okay. I have been told that everyone has, all the artists, when they paint or draw or do their art, they have a piece of themselves in the painting. And I think it might be true, because I love humor. I love being happy. I mean, I just am a happy person. I think I was gifted that by my mother, who was a joyful soul. Every human being has creativity inside, either for music, engineering, gardening, mothering, parenting. We all are creative, and don't be afraid of it and use it. Can you imagine the whole world being creative? Hitler painted. What if he continued painting instead of go the other way? What a better world we would have had. And then again, Churchill painted. So we all have, and if we can use our creativity for the good of humanity, my goodness, what better world could we have?
How has your art developed over time?
By not being afraid, painting for myself, and trying new things even if they don't work. And I think I'm voicing my concerns more than I did.
How did you first fall in love?
It was in my freshman high school art class. And our art teacher was doing all these really boring things. And one day she never showed up because she was sick. So we had a substitute, and she was a wild, crazy lady. And she had us take out our watercolors and lots of water and make it juicy. And we had wet paper and dropping watercolor into it, and the watercolor just spread and mixed other colors, and then we used India ink on top of that, and it spread and made it was like the painting was painting itself. I still remember that moment of wonder. Oh my gosh, look at this. The pigments were just kind of moving and growing, and it was wondrous. And that's the moment I fell in love with art. My very first painting is behind me. I don't know if you can see it. It was this large grandmotherly nude figure, and it was when I was in with a family. I was raising a family, and I was going to a day class at Pasadena City College. I forget what his first name was. Mr. Schnabel was the art teacher, and he was in and out of the classroom. He would put the model up, and then it was up to you to start drawing it, and then he'd disappear. Well, I thought that was rude because he wasn't instructing, but it was really showing us we've got to we've got to do it ourselves. He can't do it for us. But the model that I first painted, the one behind me, was a well-used model that had been at every art school and institution in the Los Angeles County, that all the really big artists have used at one time or another, and she was a young girl at that time. I got her as a grandmother figure. And there was a big article, and I believe in the New York Times, about this model that all the great artists from the LA area have used at one time or another, and they were honoring her. Mr. Schnabel looked at my painting, and he, with great amazement and excitement, he said, "Oh, you're a cold painter." And I didn't quite know what that meant because I wasn't sure. I hadn't learned about warm and cool colors. I was just going for dark and light.
What would you tell your younger self?
Just guess and correct. Period. That means if you're not sure, put it down. Paint it. And if it's not right, correct it. There's no mistakes in art.